Same agentic coding job, same code base. One bill came in at 0.42 per million tokens, the other hit nearly 7 times that. And Qwen and DeepSeek are the two models making that call for you. Qwen is Alibaba's multimodal play. DeepSeek is the lean token mill with agentic teeth, and you need to pick one before your next sprint starts. Test 1, cost per token. The day your agentic loop runs 1,000 iterations on a big code base, the output bill is the number that actually kills your project budget, so I'm looking at official list prices, input and output, per million tokens, because output is where the real money bleeds out on repeated agentic calls. I pulled the official pricing pages for both sides, and the gap is pretty hard to ignore. DeepSeek v3.2 output runs 0.42 per million odd tokens. Qwen's 235B output is 2.80 per million, which is 6.7 times more expensive on the same direction of tokens. And Qwen's cheapest coding model, Coder Next, still clocks in at $1.50 output, so that's 3.6 times DeepSeek's rate. DeepSeek takes test 1, and anyone burning tokens at scale should be paying attention, because the downside of getting this wrong is a bill that's nearly 7 times bigger than it needs to be, which puts DeepSeek up 1-0 and frames the risk lens for every test that follows. I know that cost gap because I've been deep in both of these model families long enough to feel it in real workflows, not just on a pricing page, and if the output token bill has ever surprised you mid-project, you already know exactly why this comparison matters. Test 2, coding benchmark performance. The number that matters here is the LSWE bench verified, which tells you how often the model actually solves a real GitHub issue autonomously, not just writes plausible-looking code. And a few points on that leaderboard is the difference between your agent closing tickets and you closing them yourself at 2 a.m. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. Line up the latest numbers, and it's pretty clear. DeepSeek v4 Flash hits 73.7 on SWE bench verified. Qwen's 480B coder lands at 69.6, which is a real gap, about 4 points, and that's meaningful at this level. The one place Qwen fights back is live code bench competitive coding, where Qwen 3235B scores 70.7 versus DeepSeek R1's 65.9. Though that's a different model pairing, so I'd treat it as a directional signal rather than a clean win. DeepSeek takes test 2 on the agentic coding ceiling. v4 Flash's 73.7 SWE bench verified is the highest open model score in this comparison, and Qwen's 69.6 doesn't close that gap even on its biggest model, so that's 2 for DeepSeek, 0 for Qwen, and the picture for autonomous coding is getting pretty one-sided. Test 3, speed, 94. Tokens per second is what Qwen's 30B model puts out on Alibaba's API, and if you're running an agentic loop with dozens of tool calls per task, that throughput is the bottleneck that turns a 10-minute job into a 40-minute wait, which means your agent costs more in wall clock time than the token bill suggests. I ran the throughput numbers twice because I wanted to be sure. DeepSeek v3.2 on optimized Blackwell hardware hits 230 tokens per second, which is about 2.4 times faster than Qwen's 30B on the Alibaba API. And these are different hardware setups, so the exact ratio will shift on your own stack, but the directional call is pretty clear. DeepSeek also clocks sub 1 second time to first token at 10K input, which makes agentic loops feel genuinely snappy. DeepSeek wins test 3. Raw throughput isn't even close, and if latency-sensitive agentic work is your thing, DeepSeek is the call because every loop iteration compounds the weight on a slow model, so that's 3 for DeepSeek, still 0 for Qwen. Okay, so DeepSeek's been winning on price, raw coding scores, and speed, but there are still 2 dimensions ahead, and one of them is where Qwen's lineup could actually change the answer for your specific workflow, because context limits and deployment flexibility are still on the table, and depending on what you're building, they might flip the whole decision. Test 4. Context and output limits. The failure mode is your agent hitting a context wall mid-task and losing the thread of a 50,000-line codebase. It truncates, hallucinates the missing parts, and you spend an hour debugging code the model never actually saw. And max output matters too, because if the model caps at 65K tokens per response, long single-pass generations just break. When I looked at the top models on both sides, the context window came out even. Both hit 1 million token context, so the codebase ceiling is the same. But DeepSeek v4's max output is 384K tokens versus Qwen's 65K, which is roughly 6 times more output per single pass, and that gap is pretty hard to wave away if you're generating long files or large diffs in one shot. Now, the context window itself is genuinely even. Both top models hit 1M tokens, so if raw context depth is your only concern, you're not losing anything with Qwen. The real split is on output length. DeepSeek's 384K output ceiling matters for long single-pass generation, but most agentic loops chunk their output anyway, so this gap is smaller in practice than it looks on paper. Context is a split result. The 1M context window is a genuine tie, and I didn't expect DeepSeek's output ceiling to be 6 times wider, but it is. So the score stays at 3 for DeepSeek, 0 for Qwen, 1 tied, and the output gap is worth knowing even if it doesn't break the overall pattern. Test 5. Deployment and modality. The failure mode is you ship a product on a text-only model, and 6 months later your users want to paste a screenshot of a UI bug or an audio clip of a customer complaint, and your model literally can't process it. License matters too because the wrong license on a commercial product is a legal problem, not a performance one. Qwen runs a full multimodal lineup. Qwen 3 VL handles vision with 256K context. Qwen 3 Omni covers audio, and the whole family is Apache 2.0 licensed. DeepSeek's current flagships are text-only, full stop, with MIT licensing that's actually slightly more permissive commercially, but there's no vision or audio model to speak of on the DeepSeek side right now. Qwen takes Test 5. I thought DeepSeek's MIT license might be the decisive edge here, but the modality gap is what actually wins it, because text-only is a hard ceiling. DeepSeek can't talk its way around, so the final score is DeepSeek 3, Qwen 1, 1 tied. Alright, so where does Qwen actually pull ahead? 3 specific things. Live code bench, competitive coding. Qwen 3 235B scores 70.7 versus DeepSeek R1's 65.9. Multimodal flexibility, Qwen 3 VL and Qwen 3 Omni cover vision and audio, where DeepSeek has nothing. And self-hosting cost, the 235B model runs on just 4x H20 GPUs, which is genuinely lightweight for a model that size. DeepSeek wins on 3 things that hit your budget directly. Output token price at 6.7 times cheaper than Qwen's 235B rate. Raw speed at 230 tokens per second versus Qwen's 94, so 2.4 times faster. And the agentic coding ceiling, where v4 flashes 73.7 SWE bench verified, is the highest open model score in this comparison, a combination Qwen flat out can't match. If your work is text-only agentic coding and you're watching the bill, pick DeepSeek, 6.7 times cheaper on output tokens with a 73.7 SWE bench score, is a combination Qwen flat out can't match. If you need vision, audio, or a broader open weight lineup, Qwen 3 Coder Plus is the call, but you'll pay for it. One thing the docs don't spell out: DeepSeek's cache hit pricing drops to 0.03 per million tokens, and that only kicks in on repeated agentic loops where the same system prompt or context block gets reused. So if you're not structuring your prompts to maximize cache hits, you're leaving the cheapest tier on the table entirely and paying full input price on every single call. If the cost per token question is still on your mind, the next one to watch is the DeepSeek R1 versus ChatGPT video, which is cheaper, because the pricing dynamics there are just as wild, and the answer shifts depending on whether you need reasoning or raw generation speed.